Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Drama Club. The club is now in session. On this week's episode, we jab about Justin Timberlake's apology to his wifey and the Gold Link / Mac Miller / Anderson .Paak drama. And then May gets into the story of John DeLorean. Where we go, we don't need roads. Stay tuned.
What up, fam? It's good, y'all. Feels good, right? Yeah, I know it, dude. And without further ado, we broadcasting live from CA to NY.
What happened with Offset? His DMs were leaked?
Yeah.
And he was messaging somebody, some girl?
He was messaging Tekashi 6ix9ine's girlfriend or ex-girlfriend. I don't know what their situation is, but
How funny. I saw that then his Twitter started tweeting really random stuff.
yeah.
And he was like, oh, I'm hacked or whatever.
Yeah, that was his excuse. He was like,
That's a good ass cover up.
he was like, those weren't my DMs on Instagram because I was hacked on Twitter. And then Cardi started caping for him, which I feel like,
I saw that. Yeah. She was like, he's right here with me or some shit, right?
yeah. And then she posted a video and she was like, y'all, we've had a good weekend. We've been sick. I feel like I'm coming down with something. I had diarrhea. And
He wasn't going to play himself. Cardi. I saw someone do a Cardi meme with a clown face on her. And I was like, oh, that sucks, dude.
I mean, we're approaching
I know.
clown territory.
You can't be standing for a man like that.
I know. I mean,
He don't respect you. He don't stand you like that, obviously.
and then they roped his mom into it too. His mom was in the video that Cardi posted. She was like, "This Offset mama right here." And then his mom was like, "I know all his passwords," and she was showing her computer, and she was like, "Look, I'm locked out of everything. We've been hacked, y'all."
Oh my gosh. Nobody's giving their mom all their passwords. I don't care how
Hell no.
fucking good you think you are. And
Hell
especially not
no.
that full. Offset.
No,
Ooh, throwback Offset moment. I was watching the video of him and Joe Budden, and then I sent it to May.
yeah.
So I was just hyped again.
I have watched that video several times this week because it's been coming up. People have been doing Twitter moments of the decade.
Yeah.
And when that video came out, it was remixed several times, with focuses on different people in the video and shit.
Yeah.
I've been watching so many of them.
I was watching it with my cousin, and I was like, dude, we need psychologists up in here to let us know what the fuck is going on. There's several power dynamics.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know who's mad about what. It's super weird.
Was it the BT Awards?
I think it was Complex something, but I don't know.
Huh. Okay.
I'm not sure.
It might have even been the Grammys or something.
Joe Budden was not at the Grammys.
True. Oh, tell me about the Justin Timberlake apology.
Okay, so if you guys remember a few weeks back, me and May were literally recording when the pictures came out of Justin, or the news broke, because at that point we couldn't find pictures, I remember.
Yeah. True.
But there was news breaking that Justin was seen holding hands with his Palmar co-star Alicia Wainwright in a balcony in New Orleans. Which, what the fuck is Palmar? It's a show?
I think it's a movie.
All right.
And also, the fuck was he doing in New Orleans without an oyster in his hand? Without some,
Yeah. At least he had a black
some fried chicken.
So in the video, if you guys watched it, he's fucked up. He's faded.
Yeah.
You could tell. But still, he's sitting down, and he's so faded, he's not even really involved.
He's not doing anything.
Yeah, he's just sitting there faded as fuck. And then she comes and puts her hand on his inner thigh, right? On his leg.
Mm-hmm. And he's got those jeans with the holes in them too.
Ew. And then they link hands for a second, and then she stands up again, and then he then that's pretty much it. Then they walk in together. It just looks hella sketchy. I mean, who knows?
Well,
what's
I
going
think
on with him
they're
and-
just that's the edited version of the video because I
Yeah.
think that they're holding hands for a minute, a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I didn't see that.
Yeah.
And for a while, I was like, man, when's his apology thing going to happen? And then I forgot about it. And then this week, he took to Instagram and he issued a notes apology. You know, we love.
Hell yeah.
With the fucking Comic Sans font and shit. He said, I stay away from gossip as much as I can, which, by the way, that shit was not gossip. There is fucking pictures and video evidence.
It's true.
Yeah, there ain't no gossip. What you talking about?
We saw your ass.
Jessica seen it. He said, but for my family, it's important to address the rumors. I displayed a strong lapse in judgment. Let me be clear. Nothing happened between me and my co-star. I drank too much and I regret my behavior. Should have known better. It's not the example I want to set for my son. I apologize to my amazing wife and family for putting them through an embarrassing situation, and I'm focusing on being the best husband and father I can be. This was not that. I'm incredibly proud to be working on Palmer. Looking forward to continuing to make this movie and excited for people to see it. The thing is, now, whatever the movie was going to be, like, whatever, like, it's always, like, people are going to think of this.
Is it fake? Do you think someone was saying that? Like, is it a publicity stunt for Palmer? Because every time the story comes up now, it's like, oh, and his Palmer co-star, blah, blah, blah.
Interesting.
So there's that conspiracy theory. I don't know if I believe that, though. He is thirsty for attention.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put it past him.
That's a plot twist.
I don't know, but it's like we were saying before, that is such an intimate thing. Like, but then I saw people on Twitter popping up like, "Oh, you don't let your spouse hold hands with somebody," and I was thinking like, no. No, I would not do that. Not that I would let them do anything, but I wouldn't be happy about it.
Hell no. I would fucking throw down if I saw holding someone's hand. That's my hand.
Yeah, I'm saying.
To have and to hold, bitch.
Even, okay, let's say you're like very close. Like, I'm very close to Hoel. I'm not holding
throw down, bitch.
I'm not holding Hoel's hand. Because then I was thinking like, oh, okay, so I was like going through the motions in my mind. Okay, what if they're really close? They're co-stars. You get close on a set. What if they're really close? And I was like, I'm really close with Hoel. I'm not holding that fool's hand. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's really weird. And then we were saying like, well, maybe they have like a more open relationship and we don't know about that or whatever. But still, like the way the photos came out and everything, definitely embarrassing for Jessica.
Totally,
you know?
It's ugly. Do that shit in private. If that's how your relationship works, there should be no reason for you to be on a fucking balcony
publicizing that shit for the masses who don't even understand open type relationships, you know? Yeah.
So I can't remember why I was on Radar Online because
it's trash.
It's trash. That's not something that I frequent.
But sometimes they got good clickbait. That's probably why.
Well, I saw that, like, you know, this is a big story on there, and I saw that they were saying that Jessica forced that fool to take a lie detector test.
Oh, shit.
And again, this is Radar Online.
But still, I love it. I hope so.
I was like, that's pretty funny. But then, honestly, I feel like Jessica doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
I just get that vibe. I have the feeling that, like,
their relationship isn't like... Yeah.
So I feel like she doesn't give a shit about like that. I just feel like she 1000% gives a shit about how it's going down.
Yeah, and how it makes her look and her little family. Her little Tennessee ass family.
Wendy Williams said that she forced him to do the apology.
Oh, well, I mean, maybe, you know? I mean, you're going to fucking embarrass me. You better apologize to me publicly too.
Then everybody on Twitter started posting some funny shit, stuff that I always think about, like their wedding pictures where he's always like jumping in front of her trying to be funny and shit.
So weird. Yeah, like the People magazine shoot.
Yeah, it's Okay magazine, but yeah, that one.
Okay, yeah.
And then how he sang her down the aisle.
I hate that, man.
An original song. He said people were crying.
I fucking hated that. I remember hearing that and I, like, dude, you can't give her not this one fucking moment.
Not even the pictures. He jumps in front of her pictures and then somebody pointed out something that I hadn't noticed before, but when he announced her pregnancy, it was a picture of just his face kissing her stomach.
What?
Yeah. This guy has a history of it being all about him. Obviously, so
well, yeah. Think of just NSYNC.
Yeah, it's all about May. Yeah. So this is just another tale this fits the storyline in the history of Justin Timberlake.
Yeah. That's fucking funny.
I want a future that's something like that. I want to be happy, be somebody, have a good job, friends, a home, a wife and kids. But how do I get there? If that's my purpose, how do I reach it?
So there's this rapper Goldlink.
Right. And he threw shade at Mac Miller, right?
Kind of, like, he posted an Instagram post that was like, so I've been thinking about...
And it's been taken down.
He took it down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I've been looking for it since you said it. I like that Anderson .Paak song Ding with Mac.
I like all his music. Anderson .Paak is fucking
good.
dope.
He just posted this out of nowhere?
Yeah. I don't even know if it was Mac's anniversary, like, of his death or something. I don't know.
I think it was his birthday recently. Like, I started seeing like a few Mac Miller shit popping up, so it must have been something. Okay, yeah. So like basically out of nowhere, even that's what World Star's saying. Seemingly out of nowhere, Goldlink took to Instagram and made a long ass post about Mac Miller. First, it starts off weird right away because he's like, I'd be lying if I said I was surprised to hear you died on us. That's fucked up.
It is really fucked up. Like, can't you just be like, R.I.P. my dude?
Yeah. But then he's like kind of alluding to Mac stealing his sound?
Yeah. He says that, first of all, okay, so then he talks about how the relationship is complicated because he was like, oh, you were the first to put me on. He like put him on tour, took him on tour and shit. And then he said that he listened to Goldlink let Mac listen to his music and that Mac loved it and supported it. And then he says like the next music that Mac put out, it sounded just like his shit.
He's like, you adopted Styles as homage. Dude.
Who the fuck even is this? You know?
That's where our problem started because I guess Goldlink had a song featuring Anderson .Paak, and then Mac did that song that I just talked about, Dang, with Anderson .Paak. And he's like, that's where the problem started. You never hit me up about it, but we're still family.
Well, you're dead.
I know.
Such a weird... It's like an open letter to Mac, which is weird because, like...
He can't respond.
He can't respond. It's just, like, shitty. It's like it's a diss wrapped in like a
something supposedly sentimental or something. Yeah, that's very odd and shitty. You're a shitty person.
Yeah.
Ew. And then Twitter started going crazy, dragging Goldlink.
Right. And
have you ever heard his music?
Never heard of Goldlink. Have no idea who this is.
Me either. I saw it kind of going viral, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
So the fact that he's saying that Mac Miller would do an homage to him, I think, is like hilarious.
Hilarious, yeah.
So then Anderson .Paak jumped in
because he loves Mac.
Yeah,
everybody loves Mac Miller. He's like very well liked in his community.
And he posted something.
Anderson .Paak criticizes Goldlink over disrespectful Mac Miller tribute. Why is this fucking ad taking up half the goddamn page? Okay, so on Tuesdays when Goldlink posted that shit and everybody started fucking tripping out, then Anderson .Paak responded, oh, so this is what was deleted and I couldn't find.
Oh.
He said... He literally added Goldlink and he said, this is disrespectful, narcissistic, jealous, grossly unnecessary. Why would you do this? I can't even understand this. It's true.
All things
it don't
that
make
are
no
true.
fucking sense. Yeah.
He just wanted fucking attention.
Yeah. And Anderson .Paak's like, I'm not even about negativity, but this bugged me bad. And he says that he's been trying to get in contact with him and he's not responding to him. So that's why he took to fucking Instagram. Well, that's what you fucking wanted.
Maybe that's the same thing that happened to Goldlink.
Yeah, maybe.
He was trying to get in contact with Mac Miller and he went.
And he's like, you're whack, bro.
And Mac wasn't responding.
Oh my God, man. Stop. That's embarrassing and sad.
I just don't see why you would do, like, it's not the move.
No.
Even if you want to, even if you have animosity towards this person that you feel like you need to get out, like, tell your friends or whatever.
Do that within yourself. Find that peace within yourself. Like,
Right.
you're never going to get the answer you want because that person is gone.
Yeah.
So why are you putting it out there for the public?
It just seems like embarrassed. Like, why? You played yourself.
Yeah, super weird.
Ugh. And it sucks because, I mean, I can kind of, like I said, I doubt that that's true. Even Anderson is like,
What are you talking about?
yeah, like, I doubt that that's true. But if you feel that way, okay, that's your feelings are valid. But
Yeah.
this is just stupid what he did.
You a fool.
But I have a date with a guidance counselor. Want to talk over some different kinds of work in engineering. Then there's the math club meeting. After that, Bill and Ed and I are having a full session on chemistry. Then I have a date. Okay. Boy, you sure have been going places lately. It's easy, my boy. You've just got to do a little looking ahead.
You know what's not stupid? Introducing ourselves.
Hello, everybody. My name is Stephanie.
And my name is May, and this is the Drama Club.
Welcome to the podcast about scandals, drama, celebrities, minor celebrities, hip hop artists we don't even know.
Dead celebrities, R.I.P.
Yeah. Ooh. Dead celebrities. That's the name of our other podcast.
What's it about? Dead celebrities.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Bienvenidos.
Okay.
May, you're up.
Okay, I have one that's, I don't know. I surprised myself that I did this one.
Hell yeah. That's cool. I'm excited. I'm always excited though.
Okay, so this week I'm doing the story of John DeLorean.
Oh.
Okay,
Okay.
while obviously I'm familiar with DeLorean, the car, John DeLorean was someone I'd never thought about or even heard of, really, in the same way that when someone mentions they drive a Honda, I don't think of like John Honda or whatever. Right?
Oh my God, May. Yeah.
I'm not like, what's going on with the founder of Honda?
I always think about that fool. I'm just kidding.
Anyway, but then a documentary showed up on Hulu called Framing John DeLorean, and the little description said, money, power, politics, drugs, scandal, and fast cars.
Ooh.
Discover the untold story of the controversial automaker's meteoric rise and shocking fall.
That's fucked up.
And I was like, damn. That sounds like like an episode of the Drama Club if I've ever heard one. So I watched the documentary, which is kind of interesting. It's weird. It stars Alec Baldwin as John DeLorean.
Whoa.
During like reenactments, sort of, as well as a bunch of other fairly well-known actors. Will from The Good Wife.
Oh, wow. Interesting. He has more work.
He's in a lot of stuff. I'm surprised you've never seen him.
What the fuck is he in? This? I never seen this fucking DeLorean documentary.
He always shows up on like Drunk History. Like, he's on several episodes. He's like a pretty popular actor right now. Okay, anyway, so it has...
Yeah, this documentary and Drunk History does not make a popular actor. You tried, though.
And sometimes the actors will, like, comment on the people that they're playing. It's like, the documentary is different. So anyway, so shout out to that documentary and also the Forbes article, John DeLorean reinvented the dream car, and then he totaled it. And, and of course, Wikipedia. John Zachary DeLorean was born on January 6, 1925 in Detroit, Michigan. So right away, we're talking a car story, and it's starting in the Motor City. John was the son of Romanian-Hungarian immigrants and was the oldest of 4 kids. So it's the Great Depression, and we're talking about immigrants who came here to achieve a better life. So what are they doing? Fucking working. Sometimes 2-3 jobs at once. Particularly John's mother, Catherine, just for a chance at the American dream. But John's dad, Zachary, he didn't speak English well, and he wasn't well educated, so it was hard for him to find well-paying work. He eventually found a gig working for Ford and would supplement that job by being a carpenter. Meanwhile, Catherine's primary job was at General Electric, but like I said, she had to do a bunch of shit to keep the family afloat because on top of everything, Zachary could be violent and erratic.
Oh, great.
So when it would get really bad, Catherine would sometimes take all 4 kids to Los Angeles to live with her sister for sometimes up to a year at a time when Zachary was fucking up. This turns out to be important later because John probably got his first glimpse of the Southern California lifestyle here, and that'll come into play later. John's parents divorced in 1942, and after that, John didn't really see his dad anymore because Zachary fell off, he became a recluse, and died a drug addict.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you'd think that having such a relatively tumultuous home life would have negatively impacted John, and maybe it did on some level, but on the surface, little John just kept his head down and kicked ass at school. It was clear that this kid was smart. For high school, he was accepted into a technical high school for honor students and chose an electrical focus. And let me tell you, in college, when we got to electricity and magnetism and physics, I could have cried. So the fact that this kid is doing it in high school is like really impressive.
Yeah.
So he continues to kick ass in high school and gets accepted with a scholarship to Lawrence, a tiny university just outside of Detroit that at the time was famous for churning out a lot of the best engineers in the auto industry.
Wow.
So at Lawrence, he studies industrial engineering, and as per usual, he kicks ass and makes it into the Honor Society. But then, whoops, World War II happened. And in 1943, he had to leave school when he was drafted into the Army, where he served for 3 years.
That's crazy.
That's so crazy how that shit would just like pop in and like just take people out of your lives like that.
Yeah. Like, hey, never mind.
Yeah.
You got to go die, maybe.
And, but do they change? Because I remember like in a lot of movies and stuff, if for Vietnam, kids are like trying to go to college and shit, so they don't have to be drafted.
I have no idea how that works.
Because like he was in college, you would think like, okay, we might need more engineers,
especially an engineer. Yeah. Or maybe he got. No, I don't know. Maybe you'll get to it. But did he get drafted to be like an engineer, kind of, or no?
No, he was just like when he went to high school and shit. Like that was what he was interested in, and like he just. Oh, you mean later, like after the war?
No, I mean when he got drafted in the war, did he work as an engineer?
No,
oh,
no,
okay.
no. He was like
they just put him.
Yeah, an infantry guy or whatever.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So after the war, he comes home to Detroit and he can't go back to school right away because his mom had been struggling financially to take care of the kids. So he took a job at the power company to help out. But finally, he made it back to school while also working part-time at Chrysler and at a small body shop, and finally graduated in 1948. So despite the fact that he's an engineer, he took a job selling life insurance, which he was wildly successful at because he developed a system to target engineers, and he sold a shit ton of policies to them.
Wow.
He's so fucking smart, man.
Yeah, that's real smart.
While he was selling policies to the engineering department at Chrysler, someone there told him he should apply for a job there. And when John realized that Chrysler had a postgraduate engineering school he could attend while he worked there, he took the job.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, and he also went to law school at the same time.
What the fuck? Oh, my God.
But he dropped out of law school, thank God, because he was making me feel like trash. Anyway, so while he worked at Chrysler, he got his master's in automotive engineering from their school. Oh, and also he got his MBA at night from the University of Michigan.
What the fuck, me?
So,
How?
So this Catch Me If You Can motherfucker is obviously a genius.
Yeah. Isn't he tired? I'm tired just thinking about it.
I'm saying.
I'm tired thinking about how much he's thinking.
Right. What it's like takes up every part of his day. Morning at his job, and then after his job at his fucking
his night school?
Yeah, his night school, and then like doing the MBA program at the same time. Like he's fucking crazy, man.
Don't you want to go home and watch Below Deck, my dude?
So anyway, there's no denying it. The world is his oyster, and it's up to him to figure out how he's going to best apply his talents. Also, John marries a woman named Elizabeth Higgins around this time. So he's totally building this image that 1950s corporate America is super horny for. And obviously, anyone who lands John DeLorean as an employee would be lucky as fuck. And the Packard Motor Company managed to steal him away from Chrysler with a pretty decent starting salary at the time of $14,000 before bonuses.
Oh my God. That fool's broke.
Well, this was 1953, and according to Wikipedia, it's like $131K.
All right. That just sounds crazy, right?
Yeah. So it's not bad. Like, this is his first, like, real job. Yeah. Yeah. So just 4 years later, he was the head of research and development there. So this dude is 32 years old and is now a major executive at a car company and definitely making that paper. A smaller car company, but still. But then the VP of engineering from General Motors called and told John he was offering him any job that he wanted at any of the divisions of GM.
God damn.
So like Chevy, Buick, Cadillac, Oldsmobile, whatever. And John chooses to work at Pontiac. And everyone was shook.
Yeah.
They were like, Pontiac? Because Pontiac was an old lady car at the time. And no one imagined that anyone would actually like want to go work there.
Yeah.
GM barely paid any attention to Pontiac. It was basically an afterthought for them. Anyway, so John chooses a position which was really a step down from his position at Packard, because at Pontiac, he'd be assistant to the chief engineer. But the chief engineer at Pontiac was this genius named Pete Estes, so John was totally happy to work under him. And the head of Pontiac was this dude named Bucky Knudsen. That is a 60s ass name.
That is a hella 60s ass name.
Bucky Knudsen. So Bucky Knudsen
Bucky sells the newspaper on the corner saying, extra, extra, read all about it.
He's got one of the little hats. I love those little hats. So at 42, Bucky had become the youngest division head at GM.
That's crazy.
So I think John had been very strategic in choosing Pontiac, because
obviously, yeah,
he saw that with GM kind of not giving a fuck about what they were doing over there, and having a genius head engineer and this hotshot division head, that like throwing himself into the mix could yield some very interesting results.
Right.
And within 4 years, John was promoted to chief engineer at Pontiac.
Ooh.
And just 2 years later, oh yeah, he invented the muscle car.
What the fuck?
Okay, so listen to this. In 1963, the Pontiac Tempest was just another grandma car at the Grandma Pontiac Company. Then John was like, what if we put a huge ass motor in your grandma's car? So they made it so that you had the option to upgrade the standard 5.3 liter engine to a 6.4 liter V8. And all of a sudden, your grandma's car was now a hot rod. And they called the upgrade package the GTO.
Right.
Like I said, GM barely paid attention to what was going on over there, but still, it was going to be hard to get them to approve this thing. John kind of got around that by making it an optional upgrade to the Tempest instead of a whole new car. And the head of sales is like, fine, but this is crazy. No one's going to want this car. I'll only approve like 5,000 of them.
I love those skinny, sleek 60s cars, though.
Ugh.
Like our Mustangs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, no one's gonna want this fucking shit. It's like you said, it's like this little tiny car with this big ass motor. Like,
right.
Who's gonna racing guys or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So the head of sales is like, I'm only gonna approve 5,000 of these, and when they're still sitting on the lot next year, like, it's on you, John.
Ooh.
So the car drops in 64 almost.
Has your mom ever told you some shit like that? Like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna buy this for you, but if you don't fucking wear it.
No, but I say that to my mom.
My mom used to always tell me that. Like, I would want to take, like, fashion risks.
Oh, yeah.
And she'd be like, you're never going to wear this. And then she'd be like, okay, whatever. I'm going to get it for you, but you better fucking wear it, Stephanie. Like, all right.
But I say that, like,
I would never wear it.
I beat myself up about shit like that, too. I'll be like,
yeah.
I want to buy this. It's not something that I usually wear, but I like it. Like, I could be this person. I could be the person that wears this, and then
exactly.
And then I'm not.
I have a see-through shirt that I bought like a year ago and I've never worn. And I'm like, why did I buy this? Like, I'm not this person.
You have a see-through shirt that I've seen you wear?
I have a red lacy one that I do wear, but I have a black one that is like just straight up like a see-through black shirt that you're supposed to wear with like a, like those bras.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just never fucking wear it though.
Be that person.
Find your inner Lizzo.
Wear it on New Year's.
To my grandma's house.
Yeah, what up, Grandma?
We're gonna watch the ball drop.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, so the car drops in 1964, almost a full year ahead of the Ford Mustang.
Oh, wow.
And those 5,000 cars John had to con GM into approving came and went within 5 minutes because the GTO ended up selling 32,450 units that first year.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's a cool, like, obviously I like the Mustang more, but it's a cool looking car. And like the fact that no one had, it was the first, you know? So like,
yeah, it's different,
Yeah.
unique as fuck.
Right.
Yeah.
So because this was John's baby from beginning to end, he became a rock star in the auto industry practically overnight.
bet.
And in 1965, at age 40, he became the head of Pontiac and the new youngest division head in GM history.
Wow, that's amazing.
So crazy, man. So he spends the rest of the 60s kicking ass at Pontiac, but at the same time starting to get a little frustrated with how the top GM guys were doing things. It's like how on Mad Men, Don never wanted to work for a big, huge agency because, like, he had a lot more freedom being the top dog at, like, their small boutique agency.
Right, totally.
Because John is top dog at Pontiac, but the GM guys can and do still run the show.
Right.
And John has kind of become famous, like how we all know about, like, Johnny Ive as the head of design at Apple.
Right.
Everyone knew John DeLorean, and he was all up in the newspapers and magazines and shit. And every story was...
Plus, he's young, so people love that.
He's young, yeah. He's tall and skinny. He looks good in those 60s ass suits. Like, I thought about Mad Men this whole time.
Yeah.
And every story was about how he's this genius, maverick playboy, because he was always on yachts and shit with women.
And he's got a cool ass name.
John DeLorean, yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's always partying with, like, these hot young actresses and models alongside, like, Sammy Davis Jr. and Johnny Carson in LA, which, aside from making his wife Elizabeth mad because
you know,
they divorced in 1969, also low-key made some of the GM suits kind of salty because, well, most likely they were jealous, of course, but also conservative and old-fashioned as to their ideas of what an executive is supposed to be and act like.
Right. It's not promoting the brand, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you couldn't deny that the man got fucking results. So GM promoted John to head of their flagship division, Chevy.
Wow.
So this is fucking huge.
Yeah.
And if John was fucking living the high life before, it was fucking on now. He was now making that motherfucking paper. According to Wikipedia, his $200,000 yearly salary is $1.73 million today, and not including bonuses of up to $400K or $2.73 million.
God damn.
So we're pushing $4-5 million to start at Chevy.
Right.
And he's divorced now, so he's an eligible bachelor. He buys a piece of the San Diego Chargers and the New York Yankees. He gets a shit ton of plastic surgery, and most notably debuts a new chin implant and gets into great shape. So he starts rocking long sideburns and shit and doesn't wear a tie.
Okay, we're in the 70s now?
Uh-huh. And remember that this is a time when not only are executives just like regular, square, balding white guys in suits named Bob,
right?
But here's a white guy with sideburns and an unbuttoned shirt named John, so he really changed the game.
He's got swag. Yeah.
Also in 1969, he marries a 19-year-old blonde bombshell named Kelly Harmon. Kelly Harmon is the sister of the actor Mark Harmon, if you've ever heard of that guy. But anyway, he was 44 at the time.
Oh.
GM even fudged her age a little bit in the press release because it was creepy, like, even back then.
Fuck yeah.
So anyway, the GM guys are still like, ugh, we don't get your whole deal. We don't understand what's going on with you. So, like, their personalities and managerial styles kept clashing. But by the end of 1971, thanks to John, GM was breaking records, and Chevy alone was almost matching the sales of the entire Ford Motor Company.
God damn.
So the GM guys were like, we have no choice but to stand. And he got promoted out of Chevy to VP of GM in 1972.
Damn.
So obviously he was in line to become the next president of GM, aka the largest corporation in the world, which was clearly huge. That would have been like being CEO of Apple or Amazon today. Mm-hmm. His home life is still a little shaky, though, because he divorces his second wife, Kelly. I saw an interview around this time where he talks about
she got her period.
He was like, no, I didn't sign up for this shit. So I saw an interview from the time where he's talking about the intensity of his sex drive.
Oh,
And
what is it with dudes that are into cars and shit like that?
oh my God, I saw
That's
a video
so
of someone
cheesy.
fucking car
I saw
yesterday.
that too, and it was like, this is how I feel. All dudes that are into
Yeah.
cars are like, and I feel that way too.
Tell me why I
Something
watched
about
that whole video.
Oh, damn
I was
it.
like, I want to see, like, how does this end?
Yeah.
It ends the way every sex video ends.
Disappointment and shame.
So anyway, he talks about how he thinks that having a strong sex drive is a characteristic that is shared by all men who are good at business. And so I was
Okay,
like,
I'm starting to like him less and less.
he's a douchebag for sure. He's gross.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
his 19-year-old wife.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Yeah. Trying to fuck your Pontiac, bro? Get out of here.
So shortly after he divorces Kelly, he adopts a 2-week-old baby boy named Zachary.
Wow. I just realized he doesn't have any children?
No.
Okay.
And shortly after that, he marries for the 3rd time to a model named Christina Ferrar, who was kind of a hot model at the time. She hosted a few TV shows. She was the face of Max Factor. She did major magazine covers, and she even did a little acting. So she was doing her thing. And in the documentary, they called her the world's top supermodel at the time, which I feel like is kind of a stretch. But suffice it to say that she was young, talented, and successful. So she had it going on.
Okay.
So like major power couple. This is like this famous corporate executive, probably like one of the first famous corporate executives.
Right.
Like aside from like your Hearsts and like your Rockefellers or whatever. And like a really successful model. So everyone was like, ooh, look at them. They were all in magazines and shit.
So it's like a Hadid dated fucking Elon Musk or something.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly. Meanwhile, the GM guys are still super salty that he's so swaggy and that he's this celebrity and that he's this business genius and everybody knows it. And that he perhaps wanted to take the business in directions that made them uncomfortable. So behind the scenes, there's a lot of suits who are like, over our dead bodies, will this dude become president of GM?
Yeah, starting to get political and shit.
Yeah. And John felt the animosity and started leaking shit to the press about how he was unhappy at GM, and he talked hella shit about the company, thinking that this would pressure them into naming him president.
What the fuck? Why?
To keep him happy, because like,
yeah, but
he could go somewhere else, you know? And it's like,
oh, yeah.
this is like the dude. Like, if you lose this dude, your stock is going to tank and like,
Yeah.
you know? But instead, things got super messy, and he ultimately left the company in April of 1973, although there were rumors that he'd been fired.
Wow.
Whatever happened, John spinned it in the press to make it seem like GM was just too fucking square to get with his vision, and he was going to start his own car company. Mind you, the last time anyone started a major car company in the US was Chrysler in the 1920s, and even they'd gone bankrupt, and here we are in 1973. So this is a huge gamble, and John totally had balls of steel for even imagining it, let alone actually doing it.
Right.
Apparently, for years, he'd been toying with the idea of something he wanted to build called the ethical sports car. Ethical because he figured he could build it out of stainless steel so that it could last forever. We stand an environmentalist. Anyway, his dream was for it to be something that would compete with your Ferraris and Lamborghinis, but be a mass-produced car that almost anyone could buy. Not that it would be cheap, but certainly not for the 1%, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So John forms the DeLorean Motor Company, or DMC, and develops early sketches and models for what would become the only car the company would ever produce, called the DMC-12. The DMC-12 was super sexy. It was stainless steel like he wanted. It had gull wing doors, which I think remain the most distinctive feature on the car. You can totally see how someone in 1973 could look at models of this car and think, wow, like this is the future. So John puts his own considerable assets into poaching some top talent from GM, getting the company off the ground, and building the first real prototype. Along with investments from his Hollywood friends like Sammy Davis and Johnny Carson, and various other private investors, I think he raised around $100 million in capital.
Wow.
In 1973 money, I didn't even look up how much that shit is now, but
Yeah.
suffice it to say, it's a lot. So he did all this based pretty much solely on the back of his own name and celebrity. And the first prototype DMC-12 dropped in 1976, and it looked damn good. There wasn't a whole lot going on under the hood, but it looked great and it got people buzzing. People in Detroit were shook. This was the iPhone. This rocked the whole industry to its core. People were like, fuck, what are we going to do now? Like,
make our basic ass sedans?
yeah, exactly. Like, who the fuck was going to buy a Nokia brick phone after the iPhone came out?
Right.
Like, this was like that. So Ford, GM, Chrysler, and all their little friends were like, how the fuck can we go back to making Pintos or whatever the fuck?
Right.
When someone's making a car like out of the Jetsons. So that's exactly the kind of buzz you need when you're building a car company from scratch. And things are going great for John. And he and Christina have a daughter named Catherine in 1977. So things are actually going really, really great. The family moves to a fancy Manhattan mansion overlooking Central Park. They also have a farm in New Jersey. They look perfect. They are perfect.
Yeah.
The kids talk about how their dad was their best friend. He seems like he was like a really good dad, like really involved. He loved his kids, man.
I bet, because he had such a hard time with his own dad.
Yeah, exactly. And you can tell he really wanted kids because he adopted Zachary on his own before, like while he was single.
Right.
So Christina talks about how he's a loving father and her Prince Charming.
Aww.
He says that never in his life could he have imagined that he could be so happy. It's like, my God, you almost want to hate them.
Yeah.
Because it's too good to be true, except that it's not, like they really are living the dream.
Yeah.
But John still needs to actually build the damn car, not one prototype or two, but really manufacture the thing and put it into production. So John sort of goes shopping around to try to find a place to put the car into production. This is like, remember when I think it was like last year when Amazon was like, where can we put our second headquarters?
Right.
And they were like shopping around the country and like different cities were
people
offering
were doing
them
pitches for them.
Yeah, it was exactly like that. Like people were pitching John about where to set up his factory.
Mm-hmm.
Puerto Rico looked hot for a minute, but then in walked Northern Ireland. And listen, as someone who, as you all know, is like into history and stuff, I think I am shamefully ignorant about what the fuck was happening in Ireland at the time. I know there was a lot of terrorism, like the Catholics were fighting the Protestants and shit. I promise when I have more time, I'll read a book about it or something. So sorry to our Irish listeners, of which we have a shocking amount. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were like our top listeners, basically, after US and England. So, yeah.
We gotta stop talking shit about Bono.
So, yeah, we're definitely the most famous Central Americans in Ireland, for sure.
What up?
Anyway, shit in Northern Ireland was fucked. They had like an almost 40% unemployment rate.
Wow.
Like I said, terrorism, bombings, it was bad. So the British government was like, yo, if you want to build your cars in Belfast and bring jobs here, we'll fucking make it worth your while. We'll make it rain subsidies and incentives and rebates on you to the tune of $140 million.
Damn.
And John was like, you've got yourself a big shot.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem being that Irish people didn't know shit about building cars.
That's a big ass problem.
That is huge. They don't build cars over there. That's not a thing. Like they knew about fucking potatoes. So this was like a whole new ball game for them. And for the company to actually cash out on these incentives, they'd have to start rolling cars out of the factory within 2 years.
Oh man.
So now we've got a deadline. And remember that we don't really have an engine to speak of.
Jesus.
So John brings in the team from the British car company Lotus and their founder Colin Chapman to partner with the existing team to build the engine and get the ball rolling on producing the car. And if you're familiar with cars at all, on paper this is like a dream partnership, a match made in heaven. Lotus had been dominating Formula One racing and stuff for quite a while. So it was like, yes, we're about to put a killer engine in the car of the future. It's lit. But when the Lotus team showed up, instead of working with the old GM guys who had spent years at that point putting this thing together, they almost completely sidelined them.
Ooh.
Besides the ego check for the American team, the Lotus team also seemed to be signing off on things that seemed financially fishy to the American team. Like they were seemingly paying for engineering services twice sometimes. But John assured the American team that they had nothing to worry about. Oh, and by the way, your services aren't needed anymore. So just sort of a red flag to keep in mind. Anyway, so full-scale production begins with, I should point out, Catholics and Protestants working together side by side for the first time in Northern Ireland, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
They, in the documentary, they talk about how it was like sort of a social experiment at the same time to see if like that dynamic could happen in Ireland, and the fact that it was happening and everybody was happy and shit was really great for the country. And there were hiccups in production, as could be expected, but nevertheless, things moved forward. By the time the first cars are rolled out of the factory in January 1981, there's a huge waiting list to buy the car in the United States at up to $10,000 above MSRP.
God damn.
Mm-hmm. But the car sucked. The doors wouldn't close right. The windshield wipers wouldn't work. Seals and gaskets would fly off. Stainless steel, of course, is a terrible choice in practice because it shows fingerprints.
Oh, no.
And you can't paint it. So they all look exactly the same.
Oh.
It was slow as fuck. 0 to 60 in 10.5 seconds.
What?
I can run faster than that. With a top speed of 80 miles per hour. Literally slower than today's Vespas. At $25,000 or $69,000 in today's money, it was more expensive than a Corvette.
Damn.
So reviewers rightfully absolutely shat all over it. Not only that, but by now the US had been coming off a recession in the late 1970s. So despite all the hype, the cars for the most part sat on the lot. And dealers were forced to start slashing the price when more than half of the 7,000 cars produced remained unsold after a year. So the company is bleeding money.
Right.
But John figures that he can hold things together if the government gives him some more cash since he's employing all these people. So he ramps up production and employs more people.
Wow.
But by now, Margaret Thatcher, a conservative, was prime minister, and she was like, fuck no, we're not giving you any more money. But John had already produced an additional 2,000 cars, which
Oh my God.
which made 9,000 in total, and the company was around 175 million in debt. So throughout 1982, the British government is breathing down John's neck because if he doesn't pay back at least 17 million of what he owes them, they're going to seize the factory, shut it down, and liquidate its assets.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, things are fucking real. Then on October 19th, 1982, John was arrested and charged for cocaine trafficking in a sting operation by the FBI.
God damn.
Okay, so check this out. He was accused of trying to sell 100 kilos of cocaine worth about $24 million in 1982 money. And the kicker, he was caught on video.
Wow.
So first and foremost, this was the nail in the coffin for the DeLorean Motor Company.
Well, yeah.
And the factory, of course, closed, taking with it over 2,000 desperately needed jobs and leaving its former employees with nothing. It's super sad stuff. It's really sad, too, because like they interview a lot of the former employees of DMC, the Irish ones, and they're all talking. To this day, they're like, this was the best job I've ever had. Like,
Aww.
they had fun. And imagine, like, you think you're a part of building this car of the future and you see it rolling off the lot and you're like, wow, we did it.
You're on the brink of something. Yeah.
So it's really sad. But,
yeah, that sucks.
But back to John. So he pleads not guilty, with his wife, Christina, of course, having to stand up for his ass at press conferences and shit. She actually seems really strong and like a boss. I ended up with like a lot of admiration for her, but more on Christina later because I want to talk about how we ended up with John DeLorean on video doing a coke deal worth the equivalent of the GDP of a small country. So there's a guy named James Hoffman who is a former drug trafficker and now a career informant for the FBI. He's a CI, aka a snitch. And one day he calls up the FBI and is like, guys, so I used to live across from John DeLorean's ranch in California, and you'll never guess what happened when he hit me up on the phone today. He wanted to see if I could help him come up with some money fast. He doesn't care where it comes from. So the FBI is like, dope, meet up with him and see what's up. So according to James, he meets with John and John agrees to finance a drug deal. That's what James says, but it wasn't recorded, so honestly, who knows? But then he takes that back to the FBI, who sets up surveillance to catch John conspiring to traffic the coke. Remember that this is in 1982, not too long after Ronald Reagan decides to ramp up the so-called war on drugs. So everyone was super thirsty to make a big, flashy, drug-related arrest.
This seems so crazy because somebody who was able to like just fundraise 100 million straight off the bat, having to like go this low.
Yeah. Well, he used like a lot of his money, to start, and then now just like so much bad press. It's like no one wants
much pressure.
No one wants to like pump money into a sinking ship. It was different when it was like the John DeLorean, like the guy who made GM what it is today.
Right.
So the circumstances had changed. It's crazy. So the feds get video of this fool James telling John that a $1.8 million investment will yield him upwards of $40 million. And that James will handle literally everything else. So he's just going to be like the money man.
Right.
And John listens and obviously seems interested and asks if there's any way to connect him to the deal, clearly figuring that he's like a step or two removed from the actual selling of the cocaine. None of that is a crime, though, listening and asking questions, I mean. Not only that, but at this point, John doesn't have a dime to his name to make the deal, even if he wanted to.
Wow.
So there really is no deal.
Yeah.
So the FBI has James tell John that he can hook him up with a shady banker to finance the deal. And an undercover agent posing as a banker inside of a real bank tells John that he has a friend in Colombia who will become an investor, aka take shares in DMC, in exchange for cocaine for John and his associates. And John agrees to hand over stock in DMC. But remember that DMC isn't really worth anything at this point because they're $175 million in the hole.
Right.
So in John's mind, he just conned these dudes by handing over worthless stocks, aka $0, which he hopes will yield him a return of millions of dollars after John or whoever ends up selling the coke.
Right.
Cut to, I don't know, a week later or something. They call John to come pick up the first $10 million return on his investment. So John immediately flies to LA and meets with the undercover agents in a hotel room. John and the undercover guys then pop a bottle of champs and toast to their success. Then for some reason, the feds bring out a suitcase of coke to show it to John, which is obviously for the camera because, like, why would the coke even be there? They allegedly sold it so that he could get his first $10 million. Anyway, on camera, John kind of looks at the coke and then says, "That's better than gold."
Oh, wow.
And that's when the feds bust in the door and arrest him.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. So John's 1984 trial was a huge deal. It was the trial of the century before OJ's trial became the new trial of the century. Mm-hmm. People were selling t-shirts and buttons outside the courthouse. There was press from all over the world. It was insane. John's defense went with the long shot strategy of calling the whole thing, the whole sting operation entrapment, which honestly, I feel like, of course, this is entrapment. He didn't even have the money to do a drug deal, so the government set him up with fake money to do a fake drug deal.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of shit is that? Anyways, kind of against all odds, because this defense almost never works, the jury agreed that it was entrapment, and they acquitted John on all 8 counts of trafficking. And John and Christina raised their linked arms in victory on the steps of the courthouse. But just a few days later, Christina leaves John.
Oh, of course.
Mm-hmm. After John was arrested, Christina, who was around 31 at the time, like I said, had been a very successful model for like 15 years at that point, was completely ostracized and blackballed in the industry.
Oh, wow.
She told Barbara Walters in an interview at the time that she'd only booked one job in the previous 7 months for a total income of $105.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And remember that John was broker than broke at the time. So Christina had to put food on the table for her kids, but no one wanted anything to do with like her or John. Like, they were bad news.
Right.
So that was it. Her career was over. And she was rightfully furious at John for that, but more furious that he put his family through this. So she left. She distanced herself from John and eventually remarried to some dude in the entertainment industry and has had a long career hosting TV shows and writing books to a fair amount of success ever since.
Oh, wow.
I actually think she has a show on the Oprah Winfrey Network now.
Oh, cool.
The kids are unfortunately kind of fucked up, though.
Well,
Zach is estranged from his mom, and both he and Catherine seem to be dealing with a lot of pain and trauma to this day over the circumstances of John's downfall.
I'm sure.
It's really, really sad because they both idolized their dad before the shit hit the fan, you know?
Yeah.
And it seems like they had it really rough because everything happened so publicly that I guess people were like really cruel to them about it. Like kids at school would make jokes about like cocaine and stuff. Like they had it really rough after this happened.
It's like Blue Valentine. Remember Alec Baldwin's son in that? He's like at Harvard Business School and then he drops out and shit. I'm sorry, Blue Valentine.
Blue Valentine is the sex one.
I know.
Right?
I'm tripping.
I was like, Alec Baldwin's that?
No. Oh my God. Woody Allen, Alec Baldwin. Well, that's not saying a lot. Kate Blanchett. Blue Jasmine. Remember his son like drops out of Harvard Business School because he's so fucking embarrassed after Alec Baldwin's shit.
Yeah,
and then he like becomes a drug addict and shit because he like had idolized his dad.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, Blue Jasmine is so good.
That movie's so fucking good. So is Blue Valentine, by the way.
But back to John in the aftermath of the trial. So the drug trial brought with it increased scrutiny over the financial and business affairs of John and the DeLorean Motor Company. Remember that when the Lotus team came in, there was something fishy going on with the financials?
Right.
And John fired the American team when they started asking questions.
Right.
It turns out that there were $17.65 million in investor money that was missing from the company and being paid out to a random shell company for engineering services. And that's why the Americans were saying that they were getting billed twice.
Wow.
Because they were like, we're doing all this in-house. Like, why are you paying this outside company money to do things that we're already doing? When in reality, that company didn't exist. It was just John and Colin Chapman, the head of Lotus, who funneled the 17 plus million through a bunch of Swiss bank accounts, split that shit, and then pocketed it as their own.
Oof.
Colin Chapman was dead, so he got off on that one.
Colin Chapman, you stole my whole swag as an homage.
Colin Goldlink Chapman. And the feds now had Christina Farrar willing to testify to walking in on John in the middle of the night, working in his closet with latex gloves and using a heat lamp to age some documents that she didn't realize at the time were tied to the creation of this shell company he made up to embezzle the money.
Oh my God.
So John was forced to settle in order to repay the missing funds to the jilted investors. And when you think about it, if John and Colin wouldn't have embezzled the 17.65 million, they would have had the money to repay the British government.
Oh my God.
And hold off shutting down the factory for at least a couple more years.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have been balling.
But where did that money fucking go? Because he didn't have like 2 nickels to rub together after that. He just fucking spent that shit.
He was living like in Manhattan across from Central Park. Imagine how expensive that lifestyle is.
And not to mention his ranch in New Jersey, his ranch in California, jet
all
setting.
All the fucking nannies, cars, drivers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, they could have held off on shutting down the factory for just a couple more years. And if he would have just held on for just a couple more years, we all know what happens in 1985, right?
Yeah, they take the DeLorean. Where we go, we don't need. What does he say?
Where we drive. I don't know.
Why do boys love that movie so much?
Where we go, we don't need cars.
Yeah.
Wait, no, roads.
We don't need seatbelts.
We don't need roads.
This is so fucking disrespectful. This is so Doc. I'm sorry.
Doc Martin.
Marty. Bucky.
Bucky Knudsen.
I apologize.
Bucky Knudsen, attorney at law. That's what it sounds like. No, PI, gumshoe.
Yeah.
So anyway, the mega hit blockbuster film that would arguably define the 1980s, Back to the Future, was released.
Fuck yeah.
Featuring the DMC-12 as the time machine. And it instantly turned the car into a cultural icon.
Yeah, it's like a piece of memorabilia.
Yeah, exactly. all of a sudden, the DMC-12 became the dream car of anyone who saw the movie, and everyone saw the movie.
Because there was like 4 more of those fucking movies.
Right. I'm not into Back to the Future like that. Like, I mean, it's fine. Like, I watched it when I was a kid. I'm not going to watch them again, I don't think.
Me either. That's what I'm saying. I don't know why boys like that. So, like, all my cousins love that shit.
I like the ride a lot.
Oh, me too.
R.I.P. to that ride.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. That's literally the thing that I have the most connection to, the ride, more than the movies.
It's just like, there's just so much cool shit. Because really, like, the DeLorean, but then the shoes became a thing. Like, yeah.
Marty was skateboarding, which is cool.
Yeah. Him too. Like, he's just a cool guy. And, you know.
He plays the guitar. He invents rock and roll. He wears Calvin Kleins.
But just like Michael J. Fox, I mean, like, Michael J. Fox is so, like, unproblematic. And I think, like, people just love him because he has a disability and against all odds, like, really.
But people loved him back then.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Before we knew about his disability.
The longevity of, like, this movie is wild, you know?
Yeah, true.
Those fucking shoes came out, like, when? 5 years ago? And people went crazy for that shit.
I saw a pair of those recently.
I seen people with them in LA.
I didn't see anybody wearing them. They were, like, on display.
I saw somebody wearing them. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, yeah. Like, I mean, wear them, right? If you buy them.
Yeah, for sure.
Enjoy them.
Yeah.
So, a car that just a couple years before had been written off as garbage and sold at a loss became one of the most collectible cars ever made. So, John became a born-again Christian and married a woman named Sally Baldwin. He pretty much spent the rest of the 80s and 90s fighting legal cases. According to Wikipedia, there were around 40 cases he was tied up in. In 1999, he declared personal bankruptcy and had to sell his New Jersey estate and move to a small 1-bedroom apartment. And to add insult to injury, he sold his New Jersey estate to the then future president of the United States, Donald Trump, who turned it into a golf course.
Oh,
damn! How like ballin' was that estate that you could turn it into a golf course?
Right? Yeah. How sad to have fallen so low after like. How do you even live like that anymore?
What is that saying? Like he flew too close to the sun.
Yeah.
That's like that's exactly his thing. Like he dared to dream. I respect that, but like
me too. But how do you live after that? Yeah. After reaching that high?
Yeah.
Like how could you go back to normal shit?
That's why he had to become a born again Christian, because he had to like fill his life with like
humble. Yeah. Some sort of something,
man.
Fill this fucking void with Jesus.
He should have. And like, everybody talks about how he had dreams of like sort of resuscitating the company, and like he had designed a different car, like the DMC2 or something, which is like an updated version of the car. And I saw the sketches for it. It seemed like pretty cool. And he had like ideas to do. He was totally Elon Musk and Tesla, because he was like, oh, I'm going to do a sports utility vehicle and this and that.
Maybe in this time, if he would have been wrapped up in that shit, people would have still gave him a chance. Ooh. Like he could have still gotten a job after it.
The drugs, you think?
Yeah, I mean, not his own company, but maybe working for another. Well, no, because they want to be all cookie cutter and shit. Like GE's are not going to give him a fucking job anymore.
Yeah.
GM.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it would have been like, that's a wrap. No one would have. But he was talented though.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
maybe at least like under the rug, like consulting. You know. Yeah. So John died in March of 2005 at age 80 of a stroke.
Aww.
And his tombstone features a DMC-12 with the doors open. I thought that was like really cool.
Yeah, the time machine, bro. Where we go, we don't need roads, bro.
I teared up a little bit right now.
Yeah, that's so fucking cool.
And that's the story of John DeLorean.
That's awesome, man. Very cool.
Like I said, never even thought this dude had never even crossed my mind. Like I vaguely knew that DeLorean was a dude.
Yeah.
And then I saw this, I was like, damn, this man lived an insane life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, well, thank you everybody for tuning in to the Drama Club. Yep. Hit us up on Instagram and Twitter at Drama Club Pod, on the website dramaclubpod.com.
On the hotline 505-539-0556, at our P.O. Box P.O. Box number 27433, LACA 90027. Leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts, especially on Apple Podcasts. It makes it easy for people to find us. And we'll talk to you on Monday with a brand new Afternoon Delight episode.
Bye.
Bye.
However, whatever with your helmet.